I'm talking with Charlie Dyasi about his participation in the Never Seen project. Charlie, why is it that you think so few people from the blindness community are involved in the visual arts and photography?
Well, thank you so much, Lois, first of all, for this opportunity. Um, I feel that there is very little visually impaired persons because visual arts to visually impaired, especially blind people, has been a taboo subject for quite a long time. And why? It has often been said that blind people, you want to take a photo? What are you going to do with the photo? You can't see a photo. So what are you going to do with the photo? So those things became null and void to especially a visually impaired person and a blind person. Yeah, there might be something that a low vision person might want to use, but a blind person per se, no. That's something that they just couldn't. It's a hurdle that they could not go over.
And
So for me, it has been something that just has made it so difficult for people, especially blind people, to 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 come to terms with as well.
okay. So then moving on to the actual project, obviously accessibility was one of the big project aims that we were working with, making visual art, making photography more accessible, but also making digital content accessible. What
Mm.
did you, as someone working in the field of media, what did you learn about accessibility tools as a result of being on the project?
Well, to say the truth, Lois, I've learned there is more accessibility tools than you could have ever wished for in your own surroundings. Um, you don't have to go to any fancy schmancy place in order to get accessibility, but there is accessibility in and around where you are. And I have found I've seen so many accessible stuff around where I am right now, due to the fact that I have started looking for those things in order to make my life better. But before, I would have told you there isn't stuff that is acceptable with where I am right now.
What
So
sort of
I've learned in
things,
order to,
what sort of things are we talking about when you say there's so much available?
like, looking now at my surroundings now has become much more clearer, and I have a much more visual uh what my surroundings now look like and how I can make it much more accessible for myself. You see, it's not to say now that I'm just there and seeing the stuff that's happening in and around me, and I don't know now what to do, because when you have so little visual content to work with, it's virtually or makes it almost impossible in order to know how to make surroundings for yourself accessible because of the visual content. Let's say, for instance, someone tells you, no, you are in a house. This house, you don't know what's in the house or what obstacles are in the house. But what the house look like? No, the house is just beautiful. That's all the visual content you have to work with. It's just beautiful, man. It has, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just beautiful. Now, for telling me it's just beautiful, I can't work really with that. You have to tell me on your left hand side there is gonna be this and that and that and that. On your left hand side, you're gonna find the kitchen. On the right hand side is the living room, and all of those things. That increases my visual field as a person and as a blind person, because I can't use my eyes to take in the visual content like any other person does. So the verbal visual content now, and by going in and touching things and finding things, that has actually made me in order to understand my surroundings even better.
So the skill of becoming aware of the power of visualization has really helped you in terms of your navigation, your appreciation of your surroundings.
That's true. Yes, it has made me appreciate it much more into actually understanding what is in, because when you understand what is around you, you appreciate it much more. If there's a plant, maybe they say there's a rose plant there. You never knew it was there. Um, and if then you get to know about that plant, you appreciate it much more because it's a part of that space.
Let's look a little bit more at the topic of inclusion. How do you think that being involved in projects like Never Seen can help improve the levels of inclusion of members of the blind youth community into society?
Lois, that's a very good question because the one thing for me that I know, if something is really inclusive, it doesn't mean also it is accessible. So in order to be inclusive, is to include everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean blind community, even the people sitting in wheelchairs, crushes, or whatever disabled community. Everyone must be included in that.
So you're saying that the awareness of visual art is, and the involvement in projects like this are really important to help us feel part of society.
Yes, and it makes us in order to appreciate even society even more because of what we our field what we have then in our field of vision as well. For instance, I'm just going to make you an example, a quick one. I am living with a condition called glaucoma. And what is happening with me? I can see colors, I can see shapes, and yeah, so colors and shapes. That's what I can see, and I can make out then with those what is surrounding me. But if I get some audio, uh, someone who's going to explain to me even in much more greater detail what is happening in and around me, that makes it much more even perfect, so that I can even have a much more larger field of vision that I can even use at my disposal as well.
That's great. Thank you for explaining that and for having the distinction between inclusion and accessibility, bringing that out here.